Meet two people, same city, same age, same salary, maybe even the same first job offer on the table. One of them spent 2 years on a kibbutz or in the army before finishing their degree. The other went straight into a US finance job the day they graduated. 10 years later, one of them has way more money than the other. Not a small gap, a big one. And here's the strange part. It wasn't income. It wasn't luck. It wasn't who worked harder. It came down to 8 habits. Habits baked into how one of them was raised to think about money. Habits that never show up in any US personal finance class, book, or course. By the end of this video, you'll know all 8. And you'll know exactly how much each one is costing you. Here's where this comes from. Israel has one of the highest numbers of billion-dollar startups per person on earth. Not per country, per person. That's not an accident. It comes from a culture where kids grow up negotiating, taking smart risks, and talking about money out loud, instead of treating it like a secret. These 8 habits aren't random. They fall into 3 groups. How much risk you're willing to take, how you get access to capital, and how open you are about money with the people around you. Stack all 3 together, and the gap isn't small. We're going to walk through the exact dollar difference, habit by habit, so you can see precisely where your money is leaking out. Section 1. Let's start with risk. Habit 1 is simple. Treat risk like a tool, not a threat. In Israel, most people spend 2 years, sometimes 3, doing something high stakes before they even start their career. Army service, or a kibbutz, or backpacking through a country where nobody speaks their language. By the time they hit their first real job, they've already survived hard things. So a risky investment or a risky business idea doesn't feel scary anymore. It just feels like Tuesday. In the US, the path is usually the opposite. Straight from high school to college to a steady job, which is smart in a lot of ways. But it also means the first risky money decision a lot of people make is buying their first stock. That's a big gap in practice. Habit 2 follows right after it. Aim for ownership, not just employment. Israel has one of the highest rates of startup founders per person on the planet. Tiny country, huge number of founders. Ask a 25-year-old in Tel Aviv what they want, and a lot of them will say, "My own company," before they say a good job. Compare that to the US, where most people, even sharp, ambitious people, are trained to chase a title and a salary bump inside someone else's company. Nothing wrong with that. But owning even a small piece of a business, stock options, equity, a side company, changes your entire financial ceiling. Employees get a paycheck, owners get a slice of everything they build. Put these 2 habits together, and you get very different starting points by age 30. One person is used to taking calculated risks and already owns a piece of something. The other is used to playing it safe and collecting a paycheck. Neither one is lazy. Neither one is dumb. They were just trained differently. And that training shows up in the bank account first, long before it shows up anywhere else. Section 2. Let's run the actual numbers. Same starting point. $10,000. No income difference. No luck. Just one choice. Person 1 puts that $10,000 into a savings account, or a CD, the safe move most people are taught to make in the US. Let's say it earns 4% a year, which is close to normal for a good savings rate. After 10 years, that money grows to around $15,000. Steady, safe, boring. Person 2 takes that same $10,000 and puts it into equity. Maybe stock market index funds, maybe a small ownership stake in a business, maybe startup shares through work. Say it grows at an average of 10% a year, which is a normal long-term return for equity. After 10 years, that same $10,000 turns into roughly $26,000. Same amount of money, same 10 years. Same person basically, if you strip away the habit. The only thing that changed was where the money sat. That's an $11,000 gap, just from one habit. Not from a better job, not from a lucky trade, just from choosing ownership over sitting still. Now stretch that out. If person 2 keeps doing this every 10 years, putting new money into ownership instead of parking it, that gap doesn't stay flat. It compounds. 20 years in, the gap isn't 11,000 anymore. It's closer to 60,000. 30 years in, it can pass 200,000. This is the part most personal finance videos skip. They tell you to save. They don't tell you that saving alone, without ever taking on some risk, quietly caps how much your money can grow. The habit of moving toward ownership, even in small amounts, is doing more work than any budgeting hack ever will. And this is just habit 1 and 2. We haven't even touched capital access or money transparency yet. Those come next, and the gap gets bigger. Section 3. Habit 3 is negotiation. Not just negotiating a salary once, negotiating as a default setting, every time, on everything. In Israel, negotiating is normal from childhood. At the shuk, the open market, kids watch their parents haggle over vegetables. In business, negotiating a job offer isn't rude. It's expected. Not negotiating is actually seen as a little strange, like you're leaving money on the table on purpose. In the US, a lot of people are taught the opposite. Don't be pushy. Don't seem greedy. Take the number they give you and say thank you. It feels polite. It feels safe. But it's quietly one of the most expensive habits in personal finance. Here's the math. Say your first job offer is $60,000 a year. If you negotiate and get it up to $65,000, that's a $5,000 bump right away. Small, right? Except every raise after that, and often every future job offer, gets built on top of that higher number. So the gap doesn't stay at $5,000. It grows every single year. Run that same $5,000 starting gap over a 40-year career, factoring in normal raises and job changes, and researchers who study salary negotiation have found the lifetime cost of not negotiating can pass $1 million. Not because of one big decision, because of one small habit, repeated 40 times. And it's not just salaries. People who negotiate everything, rent, car prices, contractor bids, medical bills, freelance rates, save a little bit here and a little bit there, and those small wins stack the same way compound interest does. One deal doesn't matter much. A lifetime of deals does. This is the part that stings. The gap isn't about being smarter or working harder. It's about being willing to ask the question, is this number final? Most Americans are never taught to ask that. Most Israelis are raised asking it before they can drive a car. That's habit 3. And the next one is about where the money to negotiate with even comes from in the first place. Section 4. Habit 4. Open money talk inside the family. In a lot of Israeli households, money isn't a secret topic. Parents talk about salaries, debts, investments, even mistakes, right in front of their kids. That means by the time someone is 22, they already understand how mortgages work, how taxes work, how investing works, because they heard it at the dinner table for years. In the US, money is often the one topic nobody talks about. Kids don't know what their parents earn. They don't know what a 401k is until a job forces them to pick one. Studies on financial literacy have found that people who grew up in homes where money was discussed openly build wealth faster as adults, simply because they aren't starting from zero knowledge at age 25. That knowledge gap alone can be worth years of head start. Habit 5. Start a small business early, even a tiny one. Not a full company. A side hustle, a small shop, freelance work, anything that turns spare hours into an asset, instead of just extra cash. In Israel, this is almost expected. Teenagers and young adults often try some kind of small venture before they ever take a full-time job. That early practice teaches pricing, customers, and risk, years before it actually matters. In the US, side income is often treated as a hobby, spent as fast as it comes in. The habit isn't the money itself. It's converting that money into something that keeps producing value, like a tool, equipment, or a repeatable client base, instead of letting it disappear into daily spending. Habit 6. Community capital. In Israel, it's common for a new business to get its first funding from friends, family, or a tight community network, instead of a bank. That means people can raise $10,000 or $20,000 in early money without paying bank interest rates or waiting on approval. In the US, most people default straight to a bank loan or a credit card, both of which come with interest working against them from day one. Friends and family funding, done carefully, skips that cost completely. 3 habits. Same idea running through all of them: information, ownership, and access, all moving faster inside the culture than outside it. Section 5. Let's put a face on this. Meet Marcus. Marcus grew up in a house where money was never really talked about. He didn't know what his parents earned. He didn't know what a retirement account even did until his first job handed him some paperwork and told him to sign it. So he did what felt safe. He took the first salary offer without asking for more. He didn't want to seem greedy. He worked hard. He got promoted a few times over the years. But every raise was built on top of that same low starting number, so the gap from not negotiating just kept riding along with him, quietly, for decades. He never started a side business. It felt risky, and risky wasn't really in his vocabulary. Spare time went to rest, not to building something extra. And when it came to investing, Marcos mostly stuck to a basic savings account and whatever his company's retirement plan defaulted him into. Nothing wrong on paper, just nothing designed to grow fast. By age 55, Marcos is doing fine. He owns a home. He has some retirement savings. He's not in debt. But when you actually add up the numbers, decades of accepting the first offer, never negotiating again, never owning a piece of a business, never putting money into anything beyond the safest option available, his total net worth lands somewhere around $400,000. That number isn't a failure. Marcos did everything he was taught to do. He worked, he saved, he avoided debt. By most standards, that's responsible. But here's the problem. $400,000 spread across 30 more years of retirement doesn't stretch very far. It covers the basics. It doesn't cover freedom. Marcos isn't behind because he was careless. He's behind because every habit he was raised with pointed towards safety, and safety alone was never built to close a wealth gap. It was only ever built to prevent disaster. Now let's meet someone who started at the exact same line and ended up somewhere completely different. Section 6. Now meet Dana. Same city, same starting salary as Marcus. Same first job offer sitting on the table. From here, everything splits. Dana grew up hearing about money constantly. Her parents talked about investments at dinner, explained why they turned down a house because the numbers didn't work, and let her sit in on real conversations about debt and risk. So when Dana got her first job offer, she didn't just accept it, she asked for more, and got it. That's habit 3, already working in her favor from day one. She also didn't wait around to build something. In her 20s, she put a small amount of money into a side business a friend was starting, a real ownership stake, not just a favor. That's habit 7. Most people wait until they've saved up a huge cash cushion before they take any risk. Dana didn't wait. She used a small slice of risk capital early, while she still had time on her side to recover if it failed. It didn't fail. It grew slowly, then faster. Every few years, she kept doing the same thing. A little equity here, a small ownership stake there. Never her whole savings. Just enough to stay in the game. And through all of it, she kept talking to her own kids about money, the same way her parents talked to her. That's habit 8. She treated financial knowledge like something you pass down on purpose, not something people just happen to pick up if they're lucky. By age 55, Dana's numbers look completely different from Marcus's. Between negotiated raises that compounded for decades, several small ownership stakes that grew alongside her income, and money that kept moving instead of sitting still, her net worth lands somewhere around $1.4 million. Same city, same starting salary, same first job offer. One person ends up around $400,000. The other ends up over $1 million ahead. The difference was never talent. It was never luck. It was 8 habits, stacked quietly, year after year, until the gap became impossible to ignore. Section 7. So where does this leave you? It depends on where you're starting from. If you're under 30 and none of these habits are in place yet, good news, you have the most time on your side, which is the one ingredient that makes all of this work. Start small. You don't need $10,000 to practice ownership. A small regular investment into equity, even $100 a month, builds the habit before it builds the money. And the next time you get a job offer, ask for more. Just ask. That single habit alone can be worth 6 figures over your career. If you're in the middle of your career, some habits already in place, some missing, focus on the gaps. Maybe you've already started investing, but you've never negotiated a raise. Fix that this year. Maybe you negotiate well, but every dollar sits in savings instead of ownership. Move a small piece of it. You don't need to overhaul your whole financial life. You need to close 1 or 2 habits at a time, because you still have 10, 20, maybe 30 years left for compounding to work. If you're older, and it feels like the compounding window has already closed, this part matters most. You're right that starting equity positions from scratch at this stage won't multiply the same way they would have 30 years ago. But 2 of these habits still work at any age. Negotiation still works. Ask for more on your next contract, your next rate, your next bill. That's an immediate gain, not a 30-year bet. And habit 8, passing financial knowledge down, works at any age too. Every year you spend teaching your kids or your grandkids to talk about money openly, to negotiate, to think about ownership. You're not closing your own gap, you're closing theirs before it ever opens. The habits aren't a magic formula, they're just decisions, repeated often enough that they start to compound. Some of them work better early, some of them work at any age, but every single one of them works better than doing nothing at all. Section 8. Picture the two of them, one more time. Same city, same age, 55. Same starting line they crossed decades ago, side by side. Marcus is sitting comfortably, house paid off, no debt, a retirement account that will cover the basics. He did everything right, by the rules he was handed. And yet there's a quiet ceiling over his whole financial life, one he never chose, one he never even saw. $400,000, built entirely on safety. Dana is sitting a few miles away, same age, same city. But her relationship with money looks nothing like his. She still owns pieces of 3 different small businesses. She still negotiates every contract that comes across her desk. Her kids already know what equity means, what negotiating means, before they've even picked a career. Her number sits over $1 million ahead of his, and it's still growing, because none of her habits ever stopped. Neither one of these two is smarter. Neither one worked harder. Marcus put in just as many hours, just as much effort, just as much care into doing things the right way. The only difference between them was which habits got wired in early, and which ones never got the chance. That's the part worth sitting with. This was never about talent. It was never about luck. It was 8 habits, quietly shaping 2 lives from the exact same starting point, until the gap between them became impossible to close. The habits were never secret, they were just never taught. And now that you know all 8, the only question left is which one you start with.